I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas. That's why we have them. I have many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H-1B. I've used it many times. It's a great program.
Which was precisely the wrong place to start a conversation in expanding what is a broken and abused system. And I think a lot of people can acknowledge the H-1B visa system is broken. It's been abused.
Folks, it's going to be a fun one today because it looks like the MAGA civil war has officially started. The Trumpers had another rug pulled out from underneath them again, this time over the H-1B visas. This problem isn't going away for Trump because it looks like the discourse is starting to infiltrate Trump's deepest echo chamber, his fortress of solitude, Truth Social. Except now it's more like a fortress of salty dudes. This all started from the saltiest of dudes himself, Vivek Ramaswamy, who, I should remind you, made his billions doing basically what the same thing the Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes did, marketing a bunk Alzheimer's medicine. So not exactly the most morally righteous guy out there. But I think his post on X was especially condescending, which is why this whole thing popped off. So I wanted to touch on it for just a second. The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over Native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word. Culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we'll have to confront the truth. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ, or the jock over the valedictorian, will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zack and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters, will not produce the best engineers. This reads like an incel who just found out his crush married his bully. He's Snape posting. He's actually Snape posting.
Feeling sentimental.
More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends. Has he actually finished Whiplash? He's one of those insufferable people who watches Whiplash and thinks that J.K. Simmons is the hero.
Now, are you a rusher, or are you a dragger, or are you going to be on my time?
But after Donald Trump came out and said that he agreed with Vivek and Elon on HB1 visas, things popped off. Kenny and Chip have already done great videos on these topics, so you should go check those out on the channel. But seeing as this issue probably isn't going away anytime soon, I think it's important that we dive into a little bit what HB1 visas actually are and the impact that they have on American workers. I used to work for one of the companies we're about to look at for 5 years, and I was actually laid off in favor of offshore workers and people who hold H1B visas. So let's take a look at it. So this guy, Robert Sterling, dove into 5 years worth of H1B visa data from the US Department of Labor, and he pulled out some really interesting charts that I want to look at. Starting with this chart here, which shows all certified applications by job category. So a certified application in this context are people who applied for the H-1B visa lottery system and who may or may not have gotten it, but it shows all the applications. You can see that the biggest category by far are software developers, which take up both of these top two bars. If we take a look at this chart, which is certified applications by NAICS, which is essentially the category for the employer, the standout lead is computer systems design and related services, by far. So what this shows us is that while H-1B visas are applicable to many, many different fields, the one field that is taking advantage of them the most are computer systems. Think software development, IT, programming, cybersecurity, things like that. So it gets interesting when we start to look at who these companies are. Cognizant, Google, that's understandable. Infosys, Tata again, Wipro, Capgemini, IBM, etc. Some of these companies might be familiar to you, like IBM and Google. Some of them might not, like Cognizant and Wipro. Wipro is actually the company that I used to work for. And the reason why you might not be familiar with these companies is because they're based in India. And then a branch of the company was incorporated in the United States, and that's what we're looking at here. If you were to look at the Glassdoor ratings for these 4 companies, you would find that they're very, very low. Most employees have the same complaints that I did. Difficulty moving up in the ladder, impossible to get raises, job duties and responsibilities that are constantly shifting. And in my own personal experience, I worked with a lot of people who had H-1B visas, as well as people overseas. H-1Bs. And I should state that they're amazing people, really hard workers and very diligent. Lots of times they do want to get their visas so they can come over here and immigrate to America permanently, and they deserve to do so. The problem is that these companies don't exactly treat these workers with respect. Again, from my own personal experience, so take this with a grain of salt. When I was laid off, the reason was a new project was opened up in a different state, and all the American workers were unwilling to relocate to a new state for the same pay when they never agreed to move in the first place. Clearly, it's a lot easier to convince somebody to move if they're here on a visa that they need. Not only that, they're grateful to be here because they're hard workers. And as a bonus, they don't have the American expectation of a regular raise, at least to beat inflation. So a lot of them are happy to take a wage that would be considered too low for regular Americans. And the reason why, and again, take this with a grain of salt, this is just my own personal experience. My job, which was an entry-level job, mind you, members of my team who are offshore, who are waiting to get their H-1B visas, were paid a measly $6,000 a year. So they would be happy to come to America to get 10 times their salary, regardless of all the impossible asks that the company has for them. Whereas Americans are much less willing to bend over backwards for the company when they can just get a different job. This is all about driving up the amount of labor that you can get while keeping your labor costs down. So it's not just something that is utilized in the IT industry. Take a look at this. These are non-IT employers. Ernst & Young, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Amazon. Now, this isn't me railing against the existence of H-1B visas. I think they're a good idea. This is just to give context as to why American workers might be upset at Vivek Ramaswamy's comments about how the problem is actually American culture and not the reality, which is corporate greed. Whether it's an Indian corporation or an American corporation, it doesn't really matter. Money talks, and rich people are all in a big club that you and I are not in. So that brings us to Truth Social. I had to make an account for this and submit myself to endless conservative memes, so please, for my sacrifice, go ahead and like the video if you like the video, and make sure you're subscribed. On Twitter, which is to be expected, people are not too happy with this new GOP, made of apparently just Trump, Elon, and Vivek, but what's unexpected is how it's even made its way to Truth Social. Check this out. On Donald Trump's Truth Social, yes, I'm following him, no, I'm not a fan, you can see that he posted this very striking photo of the old man. But looking underneath the comments, if we scroll past all of the horrible memes, you'll see this one post that has 1,000 likes, which, if Truth Social was honest, should be the first comment you see. You'll find nothing but the deepest red MAGA supporters. Remember, this is Truth Social, a site so cancerous I didn't even have to turn off my ad blocker. There are no ads on here. Nobody wants to advertise. And yet these people are shitting all over Trump. So let's have some fun and read a few, shall we? Seagirl says, "What an amazing betrayal to the American worker. Promises made, promises broken. He just ruined his legacy." Golfer Cat MAGA says, "Your supporters have been with you for 8 years. Elon and Vivek for only a few months. Bannon went to jail for you. Don't disappoint your most loyal supporters. Listen to them. My husband witnessed firsthand in the DOL what a scam H-1B is. Stop treating Elon like a special interest group because of his money." Huck says, "It's over. Real Donald Trump works for President Musk now." Pam for God and Country says, "I'm very disillusioned by your support of this, especially after reading quotes about MAGA by both Musk himself and Vivek. They were nothing but insulting to us." Oh, let me pull out my special violin for you, Pam.
Ooh, let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Rob V asks, "What changed?" And he posts a very interesting quote from Donald Trump himself during his first term, with the date March 3rd, 2016 circled in red, so you really drive home the point. Megyn Kelly asked about highly skilled immigration. The H-1B program is neither high-skilled nor immigration. These are temporary foreign workers imported from abroad for the explicit purpose of substituting for American workers at lower pay. I remain totally committed to eliminating rampant, widespread H-1B abuse and ending outrageous practices, such as those that occurred at Disney in Florida when Americans were forced to train their foreign replacements. I will end forever the use of the H-1B as a cheap labor program and institute an absolute requirement to hire American workers first for every visa and immigration program. No exceptions.
I have many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H-1B. I've used it many times. It's a great program.
What? You mean to tell me Trump just went out here and lied?
You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
Well, who's to say how long Trump's little house of lies is going to last before it collapses in on itself, crushing all the MAGA supporters underneath its rubble while Trump makes away like a bandit. But seeing as he hasn't even taken office yet, we are in for quite a show these next 4 years. So make sure you are subscribed, and thank you so much for your support. This has been Tony Hinderman with Really American. I'll catch you next time.